Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf on Friday put a bunch of states in the yellow zone, or said that they will be moved to the yellow zone. And Indiana County will not be one of them. We remain in the red zone, at least through this early portion of the month. And what that means is that business will not be open in even a limited capacity, those businesses that have been closed, for the foreseeable future. And so I'm punching a couple buttons here to see if I can get both Senator Joe Pittman and Representative Jim Struzzi on the line. Gentlemen, are you both with me today?
I'm here.
I'm here, Todd, as well.
All right, so both are with us here this morning. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. We put our poll up this week, and it just debuted a couple of hours ago. Should Governor Wolf include Indiana County and other counties that have relatively low incidence of COVID-19 in his limited reopening order? 79% so far saying yes, he should. Of course, that's unscientific by every means, but it does indicate that folks really want to get back to work. Senator, let's start with you this time and talk a little bit about the governor's decision not to put Indiana County on the list and the ramifications of it, and maybe what you think we might be able to do.
Todd, good morning. It's nonsensical. There's no other way to describe it. I'm just looking at the Department of Health data dashboard right now as we speak, and there is not one person in Armstrong, Indiana, Butler, or Westmoreland County on a ventilator due to COVID-19. Hospitalizations continue to drop statewide. Our hospitals have not experienced the overload that was feared. The point of this effort was to make sure that we did not overwhelm our hospital system, and that mission has been accomplished. We've met the metric of 50 per 100,000. We're well below that, and it's time for us to be able to begin to slowly and thoughtfully move forward. And I have no idea why the governor made the decision he made. If you look at Northumberland County, which has the same population as us, slightly higher, it was put into the yellow zone, and it has 30-some more cases than we do. This is nonsensical and arbitrary, and we've got to get him to reason with us and allow us to move forward.
All right, let's talk to Jim Struzzi about that as well. Jim, we had you on the air last week. Your thoughts much the same, huh?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think Joe's right on point, and we've been saying that for some time now. Really, when you look at the number of cases, which I think is sort of a misnomer the way they're reporting them right now, Todd, they're talking total number of cases. And I think Joe and I had this conversation last week. How many current cases are there? And I think those numbers are going to be even more dramatically lower than what they're reporting right now. So, when you put all that together in the equation and you think about the 1.6 million people that have applied for unemployment compensation, many of whom haven't seen a single dime in 2 months. It's time to get people back to work. It's time to get society back to functioning normally. I think, we've weathered the storm. The stay-at-home orders achieved what they were supposed to achieve, as Joe mentioned, and now it's time to get things back to normal. Our economy cannot take too many more weeks of this complete shutdown. And when you look at how they grouped us together, and which is why I wrote that letter to the governor, grouping us in with Allegheny County simply made no sense whatsoever. So I think we have been asking for several weeks now for the governor and his administration to at least act with some common sense. We understand the health concerns that were out there, and I think people have done a great job with the masks and social distancing and all that, but now it's time to get people back to work.
Jim, you mentioned it, and Joe, I'll ask you this question as well, because I don't think they are. Are the numbers trustworthy? It seems like every week we get a batch of numbers, and then the state comes back and says, no, you know what, we were wrong there, and let's change it again. And they keep changing the numbers on us, and to me, they lose their validity if you can't trust that what you're being told today is going to hold up through tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's the point I was trying to make, Todd, is, what are the real numbers? How many people have it right now? Surely the people that, first had it 2 months ago survived it and don't have it. So what are the actual numbers of people still infected with COVID? Stop telling us about the total cases that we've had since the beginning and tell us what the actual numbers are. And I think you're absolutely right. When people start to question these numbers and they kind of push them one way or the other, is it COVID related or what is it? that really does take away some of the validity of why these extreme measures were needed.
Joe, is the state capable of coming up with accurate numbers?
I've lost faith in their ability to do so. And as Jim pointed out, the mortality rate and the mortality numbers are what's particularly striking to me. And what we're not talking about is that the vast majority of those who have unfortunately died with COVID-19 have multiple underlying conditions. They're the most elderly and frail among us. 2/3 of our deaths statewide have come from nursing homes. So we've had 6 weeks of data. We know where our weaknesses are. We know who we need to protect. And we need to redouble our efforts to protect the most vulnerable, but allow the rest of us to begin to move forward and repair all the collateral damage that has been done. And Jim's point about the positive cases, you're right. That the 69 cases that we have are cumulative in nature. So that is 6 weeks worth of cases. And we have 4 fatalities among all of those numbers. And we want the positive numbers in the case totals to rise because that's a result of increased testing. That's a good thing. To me, it's the hospitalizations that are key. Contracting COVID doesn't mean death. And our hospitalizations continue to drop, and the case numbers, while they go up statewide, are not showing us that they are of the severe nature that would cause a direct fatality to occur.
All right. One of the interesting things to me over the weekend was, Senator, you announced the $10 million loan for the Indiana Regional Medical Center, $12 million for Armstrong. There were other monies from Penvest in that funding allocation as well. But the interesting thing to me was you said, as you released it, this is temporary. This is almost, you didn't use this word, but stopgap. Because our hospitals, they are teetering right now, aren't they?
Well, you're right. I mean, that loan announcement was not good news. That loan announcement was a recognition that the hospitals are teetering. It's a way to bridge the gap, to try to allow them to get to a point where they're returning to quote-unquote normal. And I know Jim and I are very concerned. We want to make sure our community hospital is functional and viable. And he and I are going to, I'm sure, work together here to see what we can do come budget time. But my goodness, our own budgetary issues have been exacerbated by this economic shutdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a little bit of what we're talking about this morning when we think about, as you said, Joe, the death statistics and current people having the disease. Mark Burdig has a 100-year-old aunt on his wife's side who passed away a couple of weeks ago. It went down as a death caused by coronavirus, but she was never tested. It was just the fact that within the personal care home in which she was residing, coronavirus was present. So, click, she gets put onto a coronavirus death list, and who knows?
Wow.
That's just an amazing thing that it just tells us about the difficulty of tracking these numbers, but then to rely upon them to set your policy. And right now we're relying upon numbers that were 6-8 weeks ago. That it just doesn't seem like the right formula. Okay, so let's move forward. Representative Jim Struzzi, what are the next steps? What can we do to push this ball forward?
Well, I'm on my way to Harrisburg right now. The House is in session this week, Todd, as we have been doing for the past couple of weeks. Since the governor vetoed Senate Bill 613, that was amended to basically, allow small retail to open. We've sort of been piecemealing it to try and convince the governor that the constituencies we represent want to get back to work and they want to be able to put food on their table. So we're going to continue to push individual bills that will hopefully allow certain sectors of the economy to continue to reopen. And it seems to be the pattern, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, is that when we push a bill out of the House or the Senate, the governor suddenly realizes that, hey, this industry could have been working this entire time, so let's let this one open up or this one open up. So we're going to continue that pattern until, our county is reopened fully. And that's what we have to do. That seems to be the strategy that's working right now. So I'm sure we'll be taking up some of those bills today and throughout the course of this week. And as Joe mentioned, we've got a budget to think about now. And who knows what the shortfall is going to be. I've heard estimates between $4 and $9 billion. And it's really hard to gauge that because we have pushed the collection of taxes into July. So a lot of people aren't paying their taxes. So our revenues, as you would expect, are low to begin with. And then you couple all the expenses that came with fighting the COVID crisis. We have a lot of heavy lifting to do ahead of us when it comes to the budget.
Absolutely. Senator, of course, you have said that one of your goals is to get Governor Wolf to tell you what's the criteria. How are you making these decisions? He won't even give that up.
You're right. And it was, I think, on Friday when they made this announcement, they all of a sudden started to talk about population density. That was never part of the conversation. It was always 50 per 100,000. It was always the ability for the hospitals to manage any potential spike. And so the Senate, I know we're looking for answers, and today Health Secretary Levine is going to be in for a hearing before the Health and Human Services and local government committees. I'm unfortunately not on either one of those. But then tomorrow we'll be having an unemployment compensation hearing to discuss the failures there, which I'll be part of tomorrow. So we're trying to get to the facts, trying to get to the bottom of this, and as Jim said, we're trying to get some meaningful legislation through to the governor's desk, and if he vetoes it, that's fine. But we need to at least have him explain and justify his position. And right now, as I've said to some of my colleagues, he's playing the baseball game with the other team quarantined in the dugout, and we've got to get back on the field.
Yeah. I would assume that both of your offices and both of you in person are hearing from constituents all the time about this. And what is I don't know that outrage would be the word that I would use, but maybe it would be you. What's the general feeling you're getting?
I'd say frustration, Todd.
Oh.
People, as I said, people have applied for unemployment. The system broke. It literally broke, and people can't get through on the phone. They don't get their emails answered. And, for people to not be able to provide for their family for 6-7 weeks is unacceptable. I really think that through this crisis, we're going to find a lot of things that needed to be fixed and that will have to be fixed so that something like this doesn't happen again. If you're going to shut down the entire state, you better have a plan in place before you do that to provide for people, because this is a mess that's going to take months and maybe years to clean up because there was no planning.
Yeah. Jim, last week you and I talked about the fact that in the long term, Pennsylvania is going to have to come up with some kind of plan that doesn't concentrate the power in one branch of government. Final word, Senator Joe Pittman.
It is outrage out there right now, Todd. I am experiencing nothing but outrage. As Jim said, it's the unemployment compensation. It's Main Street who wants to be able to get back to work. It's families who want to give their kids an opportunity to get on a baseball field and play a Little League game. And the outrages come because we have done everything that we have been asked to do. And we have met the requirements. We have fulfilled the obligations for masks and stay-at-home orders. We've ensured that our hospitals are not overwhelmed. The governor set a criteria, and then he moved the goalposts on us. That, to me, is what's unacceptable.
All right. Well, gentlemen, you're both at work in Harrisburg this week. We appreciate your taking some time out of your Monday morning to spend with us.
Thank you, Todd. Anytime.
Todd, thank you. And Jim, keep it up, buddy.
All right, you too, Joe.
We'll
see you soon.
All right.
If you pass each other in the hallway, just, wave, because you got the mask on. You can't tell who's who.
There you go.
Fair point.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good week.
Thanks.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM. And Fox News Next, we're hoping the Brian Kilmeade Show is going to be able to air with us. It's going to be